What's your prediction for 2027?
Okay, let's look at some major events that are happening right now. So you've got this war in Iran that seems to be escalating day by day. You have the midterms coming up in November, and people expect the Democrats to sweep the House, in which case they will probably impeach Donald Trump. And you also have basically global economic collapse because the Iranians have closed the Strait of Hormuz. And so fertilizer and oil, LNG, are not able to be transported around the world. So the Middle East provides about 20% of the world's oil supply. And it's also high quality that the rest of the world can't actually replicate. So these are all very pressing issues right now. So my prediction for how things will unfold is that, number one, I think this war between the United States and Iran will only escalate. There can be no off-ramp because Donald Trump sees this war in Iran as crucial in achieving his messianic mission. The military-industrial complex, Pentagon, the military, once they get into a war, they don't back out, where you've already invested so much into this war. And you're not going to say, you know what, I've lost enough, I'm going to go home, right? It's like going to a casino and you've lost $1 million. You're not going to go home after losing $1 million. You're like, no. My luck will turn around. And also, like, if I go home, my wife is going to shout at me for the rest of my life. So, right? So, some cost fallacy, mission creep. The Pentagon will not abandon this war. It will only escalate. You've got tens of thousands of troops being transported to the Middle East anyway, right? So, all the ingredients are in place for major escalation. Okay, so you'll see a ground invasion of Iran, in which case it's going to be a quagmire. America's going to be stuck there for 4 years, I think, is optimistic, possibly 10, 20 years. Okay, so that's one prediction. Another prediction is that the midterms will not go the way people expect them to go. I'm not saying they'll be canceled. What I'm saying is that right now, Donald Trump and the Republicans are trying to pass something called the Save America Act. They want voter ID. Now, the Democrats are saying that voter ID is akin to voter suppression. And the reason why is if you have voter ID laws, then you need ICE officers in the polling stations. And we know what ICE is like. So we can imagine that there'll be intimidation. There'll be some fraud going on in November. There may also be a cancellation of certain elections. I don't know how the midterms will turn out, but what I will say is that it's almost insignificant how the midterms turn out, because it's possible the Republicans they maintain the House and the Senate, in which case Donald Trump continues his war. It's also possible the Democrats put up people called the Blue Dogs, who are national security apparatus people who are Democratic. Okay, so these are people who are CIA, Pentagon, and they would support this war. So they come into office and they would impeach Donald Trump if he did not continue this war. But it's also possible the Democrats sweep and they impeach Donald Trump, and this won't change anything because he still has the power to fight this war to the bitter end. If he gets impeached, you can imagine that he'd be even more determined to fight this war. So I don't know what the midterms will turn out, but I will say that it will not be the way people expect it to work out. I think there'll be a lot of surprises. And I will also say it won't change the trajectory of this war. I think the trajectory of this war is already set. I will also say that by 2027, you should have the framework for national draft already in place. It is possible they've already passed legislation to create the national draft, or it's possible that certain people have already been drafted. I think by 2027, ICE will be much more powerful than people imagine. I think they want to deploy the National Guard to all major cities because they're preparing for economic collapse, they're preparing for financial collapse, they're preparing for the national draft. And they will need law enforcement and National Guard in all the major cities, especially in democratic cities like Los Angeles and Boston and Chicago, where they expect the resistance to be the greatest. By 2027, all the ingredients for civil war should already be in place. I don't mean actually, two militaries fighting each other, but I'm saying like nationwide discontent and riots and protests and insurgencies. Okay, so this is going to be low-level conflict, but it's going to be what the Civil War will look like for the next few years. So the global economy should have collapsed by 2027. So JP Morgan has reports saying that the world will run out of oil by the end of this month because of the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. But the problem of the world is that people are used to efficiency, which is to say getting resources as cheaply and as quickly as possible. And the entire world is structured around efficiency. The problem, though, is that efficiency and resilience are at odds with each other. So the example is just-in-time inventory, right? So companies don't have inventory because they don't want to bear the cost of inventory. So they just use just-in-time supply chains, meaning like you will only keep this thing in place for a couple of days before you ship it to another place. But what happens if there's a chokehold, right, or on the supply network, like the Strait of Hormuz? Well, then your entire system implodes because there's not enough inventory to go around. People aren't stocked up on necessities. So this crisis that we're seeing in the global economy will only get worse. And it's going to extend to every aspect of life where you think, well, I don't drive a car or I don't fly a plane for next year. Like, no. That's not how these things work, man. Cheap energy is the foundation of the entire modern global economy. So it's not just travel, it's also food, man. It's possible they have to start rationing food. So a few days ago, Prime Minister Albanese of Australia and Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the UK start to address their nations. Basically, their point is buckle up, guys. Okay? Because right now it's going to be food shortages, but imagine if there are food rationing going on. So this is a world that's unimaginable for most people, but it's a world of limited resources. It's a world of resource conflict, and it's a world in transition of collapse. So buckle up.
Would you predict that by the end of 2027 will be the destruction of Al-Aqsa?
So let's go into what we know about Al-Aqsa so far. So there was a Jewish rabbi who's very well known in Israel. Last June, during the 12-day war between Israel, the United States, and Iran, he said basically, this war would be the perfect opportunity to stage a false flag operation where the Iranian missile is flying over Al-Aqsa Mosque. We demolish it and we blame it on the Iranians. Then the Persians and the Arabs would go to war against each other and we could laugh our heads off. Okay, so that's one piece of evidence. Another piece of evidence is the idea of the red heifer. And so the Jews, the Messianic Jews, want to rebuild Solomon's temple, build a third temple. But to do so, you need to consecrate the ground. So you need to make a red heifer sacrifice. But according to the Bible, the red heifer has to be perfect. And so there's this guy, this farmer in Texas, who spent years and years, millions of dollars, genetically engineering perfect red heifers. Then he shipped them to Israel. The third temple itself has already been designed and built. There's something called the Temple Institute in Jerusalem, and they have built the third temple. And all they do is move the third temple from the current location to the Al-Aqsa Mosque location. Okay? That's another piece of evidence. Also, we know that there have been archaeological digs under the Al-Aqsa Mosque these past 2 years. So if you want to do a controlled demolition, well, that's what you do. You pretend it's an archaeological dig. You implant explosives under the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and then you pretend it's an Iranian missile, and then you blow up the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and then problem solved, right? It's not, we didn't do it. It was the Iranians who blew it up. Then you had Netanyahu last week say that an Iranian missile was just so close to the Al-Aqsa Mosque. You know, it was so close, and there's a great danger that the Iranians will blow up all these holy sites, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Western Wall, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The Iranians are that crazy, so watch out. So you have all these things lined up, and you have to believe that given the fact that right now Israel is run by these religious fanatics, for decades, these religious fanatics in America, the Christian Zionists, have been supporting Israel. And given the fact that this war provides perfect pretext to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque, they'll probably try something, okay? But when, I can't say. It could be 2027. It determines on how the war goes. And also, the thing about these religious people is they believe in astrology, they believe in numerology, okay? So if they were to do this, there has to be a ritual, and there has to be a astrological alignment. But like, I don't have access to this information, so I can't tell you, but they probably have it planned out. And they'll probably enact a ritual involving a false flag in order to destroy the Isaac Mosque.
Do you think we're heading toward nuclear warfare?
I am convinced nuclear weapons will not be used in this war. The reason why is, according to game theory, Iran, Israel, and the United States do not benefit at all from the use of tactical nuclear weapons. Okay, so let's go with Iran, okay? Iran could, in 3 weeks, build 10 nuclear devices because they have the uranium, and the technology to build a nuclear weapon is actually open source. You can actually go online and build and find this information. If Pakistan can build a nuclear weapon, so can Iran. But Iran's not going to do that. And the reason why is that for them, it's very important to maintain the moral high ground. And also, the only way they can lose this war is if nukes start flying. So you have 10 nukes, okay, you might destroy Israel, but then America has thousands of nuclear weapons to destroy you, right? So that's not strategic. And the Iranians have demonstrated that they are very strategic in their actions. They've shown a lot of restraint in this war. Okay, so Iran's not that interested in using nuclear weapons. Israel is getting all at once, right? Because Israel's trying to achieve the Greater Israel Project. It's trying to control the Middle East. So it needs America and Iran to destroy each other. Right now, they're starting to target Iran's critical civilian infrastructure, including desalination plants, including power plants. In fact, Donald Trump has threatened to blow up every single power plant in Iran. Recently, the Americans blew up a civilian bridge. So as this war escalates, the Americans are going to blow up every single piece of critical civilian infrastructure in Iran, including bridges, power plants, reservoirs, desalination plants. So that's going to take, a few years for Iran to recover. So Iran's not going to be a threat to Israel in the long term. America will send in ground troops into Iran at some point to win this war, and it'll be a quagmire for the Americans. But regardless of how many they send in, they're still going to lose the war because Iran is much too big and the Iranians are much too determined, right? So it'll be like another Vietnam, in which case the Americans are forced out of the Middle East. And CENTCOM, the entire American military infrastructure then goes to Israel. Israel now becomes the dominant power in the Middle East. So from Israel's perspective, you don't even want to win this war. You don't even want to participate in this war. You just want America and Iran to duke it out for as long as possible, right? So why use nuclear weapons?